The Tag on the Key. Book 1, The Plan. Chapter 14, Teenage Years. I learned how to read and did a lot of it. I learned words and ideas and began to develop a way to express myself. The world inside the book was quite a different place from the world outside the book. Most people know that books can contain worlds within their pages. I had books that really became my friends. I could go with them to places that seemingly no one had ever been. By reading about people, I could share their experiences. For me, to read a book was truly empowering. I would be so absorbed, transported to another place and time. I was, however, extremely sensitive to light, in addition to being myopic. I could not read the book if I was outside because of the sunlight. In order for me to read, I had to be inside a building, and it was necessary for me to have the proper lighting. I would also fall down a lot. This was partly because of balance issues, but mostly due to the inability to avoid obstacles in a timely manner. By the time I was aware the obstacle was a danger to me, I would be on the ground. There was simply not enough time to avoid them. I had my share of bruises, hits to the head, and even broken teeth. A friend remarked to me once that people had remarked to him that I was kind of weird. When I asked him why this was, he told me they thought that I walked slow. I was young, but I walked a little bit like an old man. There is, of course, a reason for everything. I did learn to ride a bicycle. I even tried out for Little League Baseball. Despite my parents being proud of me for my gumption and attitude, I didn't make it. I really felt the main thing was to try. Ball games were really hard. I just couldn't see the thing coming. And to make matters worse, the ball could find me from time to time, giving me a whack on the head. My teammates would shout, "It's coming! It's there! Catch it!" But I guess it was not meant to be. Facial recognition was for me an extreme difficulty. If I met somebody, I would not be able to place them at the next encounter. Without realizing it, I managed somehow to develop a method of recognizing people by non-facial characteristics. It is possible to identify an individual by gait, by vocal signature, accent, pronunciation and/or mispronunciation of words, foot shuffling, nervous coughing, sniffles, gestures, finger tapping, and even the way that they smell. People tend to advertise themselves in many ways without any awareness on their part. I started to learn who people were by their unique characteristics. However, I could not always be entirely sure of the person's identity or if I had actually met them before. So I would often play along, pretending that I knew the person that had just entered the room or that I was talking to. All the while, I would be waiting for more clues. Later, after a closer look at their face, I would say, "Oh, is that you?" Often they thought that I was being funny, but it truly was difficult for me to recognize a person's face. More importantly, though, I would miss the social cues that are on display to all but me. Social cues can be critical when developing relationships. They give one the ability to better understand what someone else is thinking or feeling, and hence, to empathize with other people. As an example, It took some time for me to figure out if someone was happy or sad. It is often expected that one recognize immediately the feeling of others. People express their feelings on their faces. I had to wait for words or some other non-visual cues. The delay is often mistaken for apathy. So, I invented a coping mechanism. It was the ultimate mechanism of defense. I was able to keep a straight face always. Consequently, nobody knew my thoughts or feelings. The delay was no longer apparent to others. The outside world could no longer judge me negatively for non-empathy. I can't see your feelings. Now you can't see mine either. People seem to have different reactions to that. There are those who think I'm stupid and those who think I'm scary. For the most part, though, people are puzzled because normal people will generally communicate with their faces. I don't see the other faces and never learned the language. It is frustrating when you don't know the language, and it can be lonely. Chapter 15, Speed Reading. Speed reading was introduced in my school in the 7th grade. As far as I was concerned, it was one of the worst ideas ever proposed and implemented. Of course, there were students in my class who were able to cope with it and achieve great results. Unfortunately, I was not one of them. A line of small letters was projected onto a screen. The image would appear for a fraction of a second. Next, it was required to answer questions about what we had just read. Prior to this, I was at the top of the class in reading. After less than half an hour of speed reading class, I was at the bottom. Literally, no one did worse than I did. I consider that to be the end of my scholastic career. However, I was always interested in a wide variety of subjects, and so I turned to other endeavors besides school. For example, I started to play guitar a lot. My hearing was fine, and with each new success, I felt better about myself. It was a new language, a new skill, and a new refuge. As I became a better player, people used to ask me lots of questions about playing guitar. That too was a confidence builder. The guitar was extremely popular in those days. I was now in junior high school. Everything that was non-visual was interesting to me. Mathematics, music, social studies, geography, all were very interesting. The art teacher even gave me an honorable mention for my pottery. Only 2 kids in the class were selected for that. The art teacher was impressed with a vase that I designed. It had stripes going vertically and horizontally, and she thought that it was imaginative or creative. My recollection is that it was the texture of the ridges that appealed to me. It was just fun to make pottery. I had no intention of being creative. Sports and industrial arts were real killers for me. Although the instructors were good at what they were doing, I always felt that there was no way for me to master these subjects. I was in an accelerated reading class because I was a highly proficient reader in elementary school. Now, with the introduction of speed reading, I crashed. I was not removed from the accelerated class, but I really began to have a low image of myself.